Annastacia Palaszczuk and Minister for the Olympics, for being here today. The Minister for Resources and Member for Townsville, Scott Stewart. The Member for Thaungower, and it's coming, Aaron Harper, and the Member for Mundingburra, Les Walker, MP. Thank you all for being with us today in lovely Guru, and it's a lovely, fine yet hot day. And now it's my pleasure to welcome the Honourable Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk to come forward and say a few words. Thank you very much, Premier.
Thank you, and hello everyone, hello North Queensland, and hello Queenslanders. Welcome to this wonderful event today where we're officially opening the 13 kilometres of the Haughton Highway and of course the Haughton River Bridge here. We came here a few years back, I remember, with Scott and Aaron, and we were very keen to flood-proof this particular section of the highway. This is of course a thoroughfare used by many trucks and of course families going to and from on the Bruce Highway. So after the monsoons, of course, we had about 5 or 6 days of flooding here where of course the highway was cut, and it's very essential that we keep our highway open. So that is why a joint federal-state commitment of over $500 million to really fix this Haughton floodplain. And of course Canberra's sitting today, so I thank the federal government for allowing us to come here and to do this official opening. It was just completed a few months ago, in fact last month, and we're very pleased to be here as soon as possible to officially open it. But of course too, it's about the people and the people who worked on this project. I remember coming here and meeting with the workers, and over 500 jobs, and that's 500 people that were put into employment. And of course a lot of these workers will go now onto the Townsville Ring Road. The project included 5 bridges, 2 cane rail overpasses, 9 rural intersection upgrades, and of course widening the 13.5 kilometres that I mentioned. And there's around 6,000 vehicles that use this every day. So we heard Major General Elwood speaking to our Cabinet on Monday after the recent floods down in the southeast, talking about building back better. Well, what we've seen very clearly from the monsoonal episode that happened up here in North Queensland, this has been built back better, and it's about flood-proofing this region and allowing transport and vehicle access, especially when we get those big floods. And of course it improves safety as well. So a big thank you to Main Roads, to everybody who worked on the project, and I'll hand over to Scott to say a few words, and then to Aaron and Les. Thanks.
Well, thanks Premier, and it's great to have you back in North Queensland again during our dry season, because we know when it's wet season up here it can wreak havoc, particularly when we get some of those big rains, and we know that this highway can actually be cut at various times. So this investment that the state and federal government has done into both raising the height of the bridge that we see behind us, but also raising the sections of road and highway all the way through this new improved area, will actually make it more flood-proof. This is when we do get those heavy rains, this is where we actually connect with particularly the Burdekin area, where we allow those trucks to be able to come in, provide the assistance, or in fact be able to provide that necessary supply of our goods and services that we know are essential during our flood times. This is a great investment because not only is this about looking after our tourists when they travel through here, but we know that this is heavily used by people who travel extensively between Townsville and the Burdekin area for a whole range of reasons, whether it's through their medical needs, whether it's visiting their relatives and connecting with relatives, or it may be through university or through defence, for a whole range of reasons. But we know that this is an absolutely vital piece of road infrastructure connecting Townsville, the largest city in North Australia, to one of our provincial cities, provincial towns that we have, our satellite towns in the Burdekin. So we know that there's a lot of work and a lot of connections between those two areas. This is great news when I talk to people who live down in the beautiful Burdekin. they're excited about this because it means now that they can travel on a great class of road, knowing that particularly when we get those heavy rains during wet season, that they'll still be able to travel back and forth to Townsville for those services. I'll now pass to Aaron Harper.
Well, it's always fantastic to have the Premier in North Queensland, and thank you very much for being here today in the Burdekin area, or as they fondly refer to as the Food Bowl of North Queensland. And we know how important that is to get the produce up the road and out to export and right across the country. So having this vital connection is absolutely necessary. I challenge anyone who says, as local MPs, we don't back road projects in North Queensland. This $500 million, I'll just add a couple of others. It's almost $1 billion worth of road projects you've seen in North Queensland around the Townsville district. So the Northern Access road upgrade, north of Townsville, almost $200 million. We have, of course, Premier, Riverway Drive, stage 1 and 2, $130 million. And right now there's over 400 workers, many of them from here, on the Townsville Ring Road. A lot of subcontractors as well. It's the local jobs, it's the hundreds and hundreds of jobs in construction, making our roads safer, flood-proofing our roads. It's a great investment in North Queensland, and we'll continue to back North Queensland, making our roads safer. Thanks, Premier.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Premier, for joining, for allowing us to meet here today and talk about this great investment, not only in the road safety aspect and flood-proofing this section. As we've just seen gas going through, steel. This actually gives us better food security with Bowen and Gumloo, which is a big food bowl area that has been struggling for some time. And now we got better transport connectivity, not only with the food, but our grey nomads. And it's safe for mums and dads to go to the Whitsundays for weekenders. And the big thing I see in this project is enhanced safety for the sugar industry. We've had, at level, train crossings here for decades. I've been in this area all my life, and it has been very scary, and there has been some tragedies on this highway. This is a smart investment in the sugar industry as well. Certainty for these trains that cross the highway now. We have overpasses that removes all that risk to the traffic and those train drivers that get the sugar into the refineries and now into the port. So thanks to the Premier, thanks to the federal government on this smart investment, and it doesn't stop here. We've just heard from the member for Townsville about his investment through the Premier on the road network in Townsville. We've got even bigger stuff happening in the seat of Munningborough, and that is the new $70 million bridge, the duplication on Bowen Road, which is very important, as well as $54 million on Stewart Drive duplication, which starts in about 7 months' time. So thank you, Premier. It's a great investment, and we will continually invest in people's safety, driver safety, and our active transport connectivity to and from sports and school venues here in the region. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. We're happy to take some questions on this first.
Well, Premier, I must just first say I'm a local. I come from the Burdekin, so
Good. What do you think?
yeah, thrilled. It's a great experience. I drove from Townsville to area 44 minutes on Saturday.
Fantastic.
So much better than it was. I will just say that there's just from a community perspective, there have been some criticisms. We did have some heavy rains earlier this year. Some cooling water in some parts, not on this bridge obviously, but in some parts of this road. I guess what can you say to those? And we did still see a couple of spots along the highway.
Yeah, well, we're always looking at improvements if there's particular sections of the road, but this here is a great testament to state and federal governments working together, employing local people, and what you've seen is the bridge raised up an extra 2 metres, so it's now 10 metre, from memory, 10 metre high bridge. So this is about building back better, but also too, like you heard from the members, those supply chains being able to move backwards and forwards. So this is a very significant project, $500 million being spent up here in North Queensland, and I think every single dollar is a dollar very well spent. Okay, any other matters?
The government has accepted in principle strengthening the independence of the Integrity Commissioner. How soon do you see changes coming into effect, given it's also subject to the Coldrake?
Yeah, sure. So we've accepted the Coldrake review, and of course we've also accepted the recommendations government from the Newbury report. In fact, we've gone further with the lobbyists from Coldrake. So we're expecting to introduce those changes later on this year, and as I said, the government's accepted all of the recommendations. Yeah.
Just on the unregistered lobbying as an offence, the government's supported making unregistered lobbying an offence. So when will a bill be?
It'll be introduced before the end of this year. Yep.
So
that's all right. As you can see, the trucks are utilising this very well. So.
sorry, so when will that be introduced?
Yeah, later on this year. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So, of course, energy is really important, and we understand as a government, and I think the community understand that these cost of living pressures are really having an impact on families. And that's why we have put in place that rebate, that electricity rebate, that will go onto your bills during the second half of this year. So depending on when you get your bills, you will get that rebate, $175.
Residents in Townsville, it's become a daily occurrence almost now that they're waking up to more stolen car fires, and a lot of those incidents are involving kids losing a spot. What is your government doing to address crime, especially youth crime in Townsville? And we know there's a private members bill coming up before the state parliament soon about raising the age of criminal responsibility to 14. Will your government be considering that seriously?
Look, let me make a couple of comments. First of all, people should be able to live their lives without these incidents that are happening and causing them stress. So that's why we have got in place stronger communities in Townsville. We've got extra police there. From all accounts, the new Deputy Commissioner is working very well with communities. In fact, he was hand-selected by the Commissioner to move from the Gold Coast to Townsville to have that seniority there that are directing the police. We need to get these young people back at home or alternatively into work and into employment, and that is exactly what we have been putting the funding into. And I know that Minister Leanne Leonard is absolutely focused on that, as well as the Employment Minister, in terms of making sure that these young people are getting options to get into work.
Premier, there's been talk of the NRL Grand Final being moved. Have you engaged talks with the NRL about potentially hosting again in Queensland?
We'll have it in North Queensland.
Well, Cowboys are going very well, aren't they? Hopefully they'll get into the final. So look, of course, there's always this argy-bargy in the leading up to a grand final. We will always, have an open mind if New South Wales is not able to put that final on.
If that's the case, are you hopeful in securing a long-term deal or just the one-off?
Look, we'll have those conversations with the NRL. Our door is always open.
Premier, Queensland is turning to living in backpackers because of the rental crisis. Do you admit the government isn't doing enough to improve the housing front?
Look, there is a whole pipeline of housing projects that are happening across the state. There is a lot of housing pressure at the moment as well, and we acknowledge that, and that's why the Housing Minister, she was just with me the other day where a house was being handed over to a family of 4 children, and I know that mother actually had a child with a disability as well. So we are very conscious of trying to get people into housing where we can. It is a big issue everywhere. It is absolutely a big issue everywhere. So over $2 billion in funding is there. And of course, there's issues with material supplies and everything at the moment. That's being felt everywhere. But, the biggest stress is on the rental market, the private rental market. And the Minister's spoken to me about a few ideas there, and we'll be talking further about them in the near future. Yeah.
It's great news that the Olympics is coming to Brisbane, but there's still real concerns that the North is going to miss.
I absolutely want all of Queensland to embrace the Olympics. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. We'll be showcasing Queensland to the world. There will be people who will be coming here to watch the Olympics. They want to travel to North Queensland. We also will have some matches here utilising, of course, the stadium as well. But also too, there'll be the torch relay coming through. There'll be teams wanting to come here and train in the lead up. Usually sometimes that's a year in advance where they come out and scope as well. And of course the OCOG board is very keen to get out and about and have their meetings and talk to locals as well across Queensland. And I know the President, Andrew Livers, will have more to say about that, but I have very much put forward as Vice President of that committee to bring the OCOG board to Townsville and to Cairns.
Are there any particular events that you're looking to utilise for training here?
Look, there's so many opportunities, but also too, don't forget our local schools around here will also benefit from the $100 million, Go for Gold fund that we've got set up, where schools can get equipment, they can upgrade their facilities, and that can be used not just for the school but for the community as well, because we want to identify those champions to actually participate into the Olympics in 2032.
Just one more on the Integrity Commission.
Yep.
It's been 4 months since you advertised for a new Integrity Commissioner. Are you any closer to finding a permanent Integrity Commissioner?
The process is going through its normal course. Yep.
Premier, the QBCC has had 30 referrals to its CCC in the past year. The fact that the CCC is now self-generating complaints, does that
I'll have to look into that matter. I might ask the relevant minister to look into that for you. Yep. As you can see, I'm up here today opening a brand new bridge. Any other North Queensland questions?
The Country Bank Stadium. We know during the pandemic you and your government secured that KISS concert for North Queensland, but unfortunately it's fallen.
Yeah, we want to see more concerts up here because that stadium is state of the art. And of course today we've announced with the old stadium the contract for the demolition of the 1300 Smiles. So that's a $9 million contract. It's going to involve jobs, of course, local jobs to demolish that. And of course it'll be a police facility once that's completed. So we'll get the demolition, I understand, will be underway either later this month or early next month. Okay, last two questions. Yep.
Just on that, can you just
Yep.
expand a little bit more about that? Who was the contract you were to? Are they a local firm?
Oh, look, I don't have that matter on me. Aaron can talk to you about that in a moment. Yep. And last one.
What do you think of the opposition calling integrating Queensland?
Yes, he has my support. Okay, do you want to just comment on that and then we'll go cut the ribbon?
1300, it was great news to see that in the budget by Minister de Brenni to get that demolishing underway, because as the Premier knows, and Minister Stewart and Member for Mundingburra were all there at the 1300 when we announced the commitment given in 2020 to build the police facility. And we know that's needed. With the investment in over 150 police, we need a bigger area. The contractors with FKG, they've got their office in Garbett. They've been well known to do projects throughout Townsville. The cost is offset somewhat by the two anchor tenants. They are commercial in confidence in regards to the parcels of land they each want, but those processes still continue. What this, the positive to this really is jobs, not just in the demolition, but in the construction of the new build as well. But there's social good in this. So there's so many parts of North Queensland's original home to the Cowboys. I'm working very closely with a range of ministers to make sure that all of that local sporting clubs can have a bit of history. In regards to the bits and pieces of the stadium that are still functional and we can repurpose. So I've had a lot of interest from local clubs about that.
And the works beginning next month?
Yeah, as far as we can see, and hopefully we'll start to see the new construction sort of early next year on the new build.
Just Mr. Stewart.
Just on the Grosvenor mine inquiry.
Yes.
How did you feel? How do you feel this inquiry into safety was needed, and what do you think will come out of this?
Yeah, look, we know that from the Grosvenor explosion in 2020, 5 miners almost lost their lives. Just through the sheer brilliance and the work by those at the hospital at that particular stage saved those 5 miners. From that there was a board of inquiry, as you well and truly know, 65 recommendations were made either for Resources, Safety and Health Queensland, for Anglo-American themselves, for the union, as well as the Commissioner for Safety and Health in Queensland as well. What I've spoken to the chair of the committee about is I want to know where we're at with those particular 65 recommendations. Now, I meet with a whole range of stakeholders on a regular basis. In fact, I meet with Resources, Safety and Health Queensland every fortnight, and they give me those updates about where they're at with their 31 recommendations. And while I've met with a number of the coal mining organisations and operations, I want to know specifics around what is actually happening and making sure that those recommendations are being implemented. You can't come out with 65 recommendations about making miners' workplaces safe without ensuring that that's actually happening. So this is what I'm asking. Where are you at with this? What additional support and help do these coal companies need to ensure that we keep miners safe? Because we know, at the end of the day, the most important thing to come out of that pit is our miners. So we've got to make sure we do everything we can to keep them safe.
How long will the inquiry go on for?
Well, that's up to the committee and their decision-making processes.
I've also got another question about the renaming of Fraser Island. How will the consultation process go?
Yeah, so we do this on a number of instances right across Queensland. So we're actually opening up consultation as of Friday of this week, and then it will run for 2 months. And that's about giving the opportunity for residents, for anyone associated with the renaming of that. And we know that, for 60,000 years, First Nations people referred to that particular beautiful island as Gari. Now, Gari in the traditional language, or the Bachelor people language, means paradise. Why not? But we know in our more recent traditional European history that it was named after Eliza Fraser because her and her husband were actually shipwrecked there. We think now, because of the way that the Bachelor people have been talking to us about the name changes, some of the work we've already been doing with the National Park around there, I think it's about time to have that mature conversation. We've done it, I know, with the federal government when we talk about renaming Ayers Rock to Uluru. No one calls it Ayers Rock anymore, they call it Uluru, and it's about respecting our First Nations people and about respecting the connection that they have with this land. 60,000 years they've been calling it Gari. I think it's about time we started to do exactly the same.
Just a question on the crime crisis in Townsville.
Sure.
As a member for Townsville, is it pretty concerning, the state of crime here?
Look, I don't think there's a day that goes past where the 3 local members and myself and the Minister, Leanne Linnard, the Police Minister as well, Mark Ryan, we have these conversations regularly. We meet every time that we have a parliamentary sitting. All of us get together and we sit and talk about what's actually happening, identifying the key issues, where are we at with implementing our strategies. We have got some of the toughest, we have got the toughest laws around juvenile crime anywhere in Australia. The reverse of presumption of bail is a huge step forward. It doesn't happen anywhere else. This is about holding those kids to account so those recidivist offenders know that if they commit the crime, they are held in custody. Now that's different to releasing them on bail and then charging them later for an offence. This is about keeping our community safe by locking these kids up if they do the wrong thing.
What's your position on this race?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Please, no, they're going down again.
Yeah.